music, man. I'm looking forward to getting into the
Sure.
album, Day Trip. So thank you for taking a minute out today.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you bet. So before we get into Day Trip, I want to know this
Yeah.
first and foremost. 5 years ago, this pandemic changed everything, and especially with
Yeah.
musicians. How did you get through
Yeah.
that era, and how has it influenced the way that you make music and live today?
So right away, obviously all the tours were canceled. I was about to release my 20th album, this called 20, on April 10th, 2020. And I had a 70-date tour lined up starting April 12th. And of course, March 15th, bye-bye.
Yeah,
So the first week I did a lot of cleaning in the studio.
yeah,
And then I was like, well, wait a minute, I got to do something. So right at that time, all the streaming things started happening.
yeah.
So Facebook Live was launched. So I started just using my phone immediately, like so many other people were doing. And right away, I was kind of annoyed by just using the phone because I realized the audio was in mono that it was broadcasting. I was like, man, I'm all about really high end audio. I mean, I'm an audiophile guy. So I was like, how do you stream and get good audio? So that I went down that rabbit hole, and then I just ended up buying all the gear on the planet that I could, driving around to all the Best Buys,
Yeah.
see what I could get, and put a whole streaming studio together. And still to this day, I stream 3 nights a week
Wow.
from the studio here. I got cameras everywhere, lights, and so I got half recording studio, half TV studio in a way. So that's really how I got through it. And once I was streaming, I started writing new music live on the spot while streaming. And that was really an inspiration because nobody had ever done that before,
Yeah.
Getting the fan feedback immediately while you're writing new songs was crazy. But I loved it. And so immediately I put out like 4 new albums, like very fast.
Yeah.
Because, I wasn't going anywhere. What else did I have to do?
Yeah. So let me ask you
Anyway,
this.
and here we are.
Yeah, no, totally. So let me ask you
Yeah.
this. I mean, because I know for some people, streaming and that whole world was just not
Yeah.
okay. But there was other artists like Emmett Cohen, for
Yeah.
instance, that
Uh-huh.
absolutely exploded and turned it out. So when you were in that era, what were you thinking? Was it just a comfort zone because
Yeah.
you didn't mind it, or you knew that this was going to be the creative outlet that you needed?
Initially, I didn't know anything. I was really nervous in the beginning because I was trying to do some really high tech stuff that no one was doing. And so I still remember my first real show that I did with all this streaming gear. And I had to remember what button to push. So I'm trying to play while camera switching. So in between notes, I'd switch to a camera. I have 12 cameras in here.
Yeah.
So, my brain was just like flipped upside down trying to remember all this. But what was keeping me going and the excitement of it was the live chat. So I could also read the live chat going down on the side of the screen while I was playing and camera switching. So again, it was this excitement. I was nervous of messing up because I was getting thousands of people tune in live every Friday night. It was crazy because the people were just starved for something to do. I think I peaked out at over 4,000 one night were live views. It was. I mean, for jazz, that's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So with this new album, talk to me a little bit
Yeah.
about what the vision was. I know you're kicking off a big
Sure.
tour October 17th.
Yeah.
Give me an
Yeah.
idea.
So the music was spurred from obviously I've made a lot of records over the years, and I wanted to just do something that was definitely more of a stretch and a lot deeper musically in terms of chords, arrangements, musicality. I didn't want to feel like I was had any rules. I wanted to just kind of stretch out and just let the musicians really play and say, hey, man, take a solo here and let me have it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, because a lot of this kind of music in this genre is like just about vibe and creating a vibe and an atmosphere, which is great. And I've certainly done a lot of that, but I was sort of at a place to where I was like, you know what, I got to sink my teeth into something here. And so I literally went back and was listening to a lot of records that I grew up on. You know, Sanborn, Pat Metheny, Chick Corea, Electric Band, Yellow Jackets, Brecker Brothers, a lot of the, you know, early jazz fusion stuff.
Yeah.
Herbie, I mean, George Duke, I could go on and on and on.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, there was so much extra creativity and different chords going on. And I remember I toured with David Sanborn once, and I literally asked him, I was like, man, how did you come up with these chord changes? Because you can't even write that out. You know what I mean? You have to physically write each note on the staff to figure out what chord that is. And he started chuckling. He's like, yeah, basically, I just put my fingers around on the keyboard until something sounded cool to me. I was like, interesting. So that's how they were like coming up with these just weird, wild fusion chords. So I wanted to kind of find some of those myself, within reason, of course.
Yeah.
Uh, but the beauty of what Samor and a lot of those guys were doing, had these complex chords underneath, and yet a melody that rode over the top
Yeah.
that made the casual listener not even really notice the complexity of the chords underneath. However, if you were a musician and you really put your ear to it, you're like, wow,
Yeah.
that's really cool.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the idea behind this Day Trip album, was to do something like that so that musicians could get excited about it and yet still be accessible, to
Absolutely.
the casual listener. So,
So talk to me a little bit about your beginnings. How did this journey
yeah.
into music and more specifically jazz get harvested into this career you have?
Oh, sure. So grew up in a household, musicians in the house, band director, father.
Yeah.
So I had music going, a lot of jazz, a lot of horn bands. So I love horn sections too. So Tower Power, Earth, Wind and Fire, that whole thing,
Yeah.
big influence on me. So I like to fuse the jazz and the funk horn band sound together.
Yeah.
So that's just what I grew up listening to. And I think I was about 12 years old. I started experimenting with writing music. And that's what got me excited. You take classical piano lessons early on. I was about 8. Eh, didn't love that.
Yeah.
But for me, it was getting into writing my own thing. And I was like, wow, this is okay. Yeah. Creating something out of nothing. That was pretty cool. And then right around the same time, home studios were actually starting to happen. Because before that time period, you had to literally go into a real recording studio to make any music legit. And so the technology was changing at that time. So I was able to kind of jump on that bandwagon early on, 12, 13 years old, getting a Mac computer and starting to get all this gear that I could create my own tracks by myself. And so, man, that's all I wanted to do.
Well, I got to know this. What was the first live show you
Yeah.
saw that blew you away, that made you think, I want to do that? I want to be up there one day.
Oh, Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to remember how old I was, 7, 8, 9, somewhere in there. I still remember this, the pyramids, there was lasers. Maurice White flew in on a cable with a white cape. I was like, what is going on here? And yet the music underneath all that, all the fantastical stage show stuff was like really deep and complex. And yet, I got to work with Maurice too on my funk album years ago. And he told me, he's like, man, it's all about the nursery rhyme melody on top. Da, 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 da. If you think about it, go back and listen to the Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Yeah.
The under track is like, man, it's happening. There's all kind of stuff. Larry Dunn with his jazz background, all the funk rhythms going on, and yet that melody on top, very simple.
So
So
I believe I saw Van
yeah,
Halen back in '08. They came to Kansas City. David Lee Roth, they were
uh,
rebooting the whole thing. And I
yeah,
believe, no, it was Cool and the Gang. I'm wrong. Cool and the Gang
oh
opened for him. I'm like, why the hell is Cool and the Gang opening up for Van Halen? When Eddie and David were young, Eddie
yeah,
took him to that show and that was the first show that David Lee Roth ever saw.
wow,
That wild? Like that was how he was indoctrinated. So when you think about the lore of Van Halen, there was that
yeah,
flashiness, there was that fun, there was that
yeah,
edge, right? Like they never
yeah,
got away and were pure rock like Aerosmith or other bands of that ilk. They just
yeah,
had this
yeah,
different vibe and shine to them,
nice,
which all
wow,
began there. Anyway, I was just thinking Earth, Wind, and Fire because
yeah,
so many of
yeah,
those bands in that era influenced
yeah,
such a wide swath of everyone, you know.
oh
And
sure,
and you
yeah,
even hear that with jazz, like a lot of these R&B cats, a lot of
yeah,
these people that are in rap and hip hop, a lot of those things came from jazz and just fanned
yeah,
out,
oh yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
absolutely.
So,
There was a
uh,
second show that I saw that really blew my mind. It was Pat Metheny when he was on the Still Life Talking Tour. Getting to see that show, I was pretty up close, I remember. And what was amazing to me was not only the music, obviously, that was unbelievable, but they had a lighting director who was catching all the notes with lights.
wow.
And I was like, what is going on? So if the band played da 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 da, the lights went da 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 da. And so as a kid, I'm like, man, this is incredible. I want to do that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
find out years later, most pop bands now or pop artists, they have, lighting people that time code it and run all is run on a computer. Nobody's doing anything. But back then,
Yep.
you had to have a lighting guy actually punching the board and hitting it. So he, in essence, is another musician.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
that's what I've been doing recently. I don't run time code or computers live. We run everything, like real musicians with an LD that's actually hitting the board.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
it's kind of fun.
Yeah,
Yeah, old
totally.
school.
Yeah, absolutely old school.
Yeah.
During the pandemic in January, I moved to
Yeah.
Lee's Summit, Missouri, the home of Pat Metheny. And during
Oh
that
wow.
time, there was a book released in Kansas City by an author, Carolyn Glenn Brewer, and she went through his early years before he left
Mm.
Kansas City. I don't even know how he went to high
Uh,
school. The amount of activity and cats that still know him, he was very active. There was a lot going on. So it still blows my mind to think that he just came from this sleepy little town and he's like
yeah.
one of the most famous exports next to Bird from Kansas City,
There you go.
you know.
Nice.
So, and he's influenced so many people. So let me ask you
Yeah.
this. It,
Sure.
how did all of this begin for you? How did you know this was going to be the life that you were going to live? Did you ever think about doing anything else?
The only thing I thought about doing was become a like an civil engineer or architect. I
Yeah.
love drawing and creating those things. However, in high school, evidently you had to be good at math and all that stuff. So I was like, well, maybe this is not for me. I'm gonna stick with
Yeah.
the music.
Yeah.
So I never really had any job that was non-musical related, except I had a paper route once. But everything that I did, even in high school, there was some musical component. I was on the setup crew, but then also played in the band for this and that. And so I knew definitely early on that music was my path. So
So let me ask you this: what gets you up every day? What has consistently got you up?
yeah,
You've been prolific in releasing albums and had this long career. What is it that has
yeah.
always motivated you to evolve and define your voice and to keep doing this?
I think it's just creating new sounds all the time. I'm always excited about the next record. Okay, what am I going to do next? What is it going to sound like? If you go back and listen through the catalog even just a little bit, you'll notice there's a lot of different vibes and ideas going. But I like coming up with conceptual type of albums. It helps me when I'm writing. I'm sitting down to write because I'll know immediately, hey, is this song fitting within this idea of this album that I'm trying to do? So that's a big one. And then, just trying to keep the fans engaged.
Yeah.
every day I'm doing something. And there's so many ways now to be connected with directly with the fan base. It was much harder before all the internet stuff and streaming and all this. It was like, okay, the label put your album out, and they had to go to the Circuit City CD listening booth or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you may see people on the tour after if you sign CDs, and that's it.
Yeah.
You know, nowadays it's like this constant connection. And it's fun. It's exciting. So we're all kind of feeding each other. I
Yeah.
think
So let me ask
it's
you this.
beautiful.
It is. It
Yeah,
totally is. Let me ask you
yeah,
this. So when you start thinking about becoming a musician, you have this dream in your
yeah.
head, almost like reading a book. You
Mm-hmm.
construct this ideological world of what it's going to be like. And then you
Mm,
actually get in it and start living this life. What's been the difference between this dream of having a life as a musician and the reality of
yeah.
it happening and becoming this career? What's the difference? What's the in between?
Wow. Um, I guess a lot of times, younger musicians think there's going to be some sort of like explosive moment to where, okay, well, I'm going to really make it and, do this. And then the reality is, at least for me, it was like this really, really slow climb over now 30 years, right?
Yeah.
So there's not like one thing that I can point to. Is like, wow, if had that not happened, I wouldn't be here. No, it was like every day, just a minuscule little like, okay, I'm doing this. So one little thing at a time. And I guess in a way that's good for longevity. Because I guess the opposite would be, you go like this and then
Yeah.
inevitably,
Yeah. Yeah. For
we see
sure.
that in the pop world for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. You do.
Yeah.
So why do you love this art form we call jazz?
Well, it's the most expressive, I think. You can kind of do anything. Jazz just means be free with it. And obviously there's improvisation. Even though there's melodies, in a way, the melodies, well, they were improvised, if you think about it.
Yeah.
At least the way I do it. I come up with tracks first, and then I'm just flowing over the top of these tracks that I'm making, improving melodies that I think are catchy or interesting. So that's the beautiful thing. It's like it can kind of go anywhere.
Yeah.
Um, listen to. I mean, jazz these days is so broad. I
Yeah.
mean, there's what does that even mean?
Yeah.
Jazz. I don't know. It can be anything.
Yeah.
There's gospel jazz, there's funk jazz, there's traditional jazz, there's reggae. I mean, whatever. So whatever goes. And that's why I love it so much. So I could turn around and, I did a jazz trio album a few years ago, Winter Stories. Man, that was so much fun. But now I'm doing this one, which is jazz fusion funk
Yeah.
or whatever you call it. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Trilogy was just an atmosphere vibe. Um, so I think the excitement is that you can kind of do anything,
So
and there's no rules. So
yeah, for sure. So speaking of
yeah,
that excitement, after 30
yeah,
years, you're gearing up
yeah,
for a tour. Does it ever lose its
sure,
shine? It's kind of like seeing the mountains or the ocean every day when someone lives next
right,
to it. And they're always like, oh,
yeah,
no, it's always magical. But for you,
yeah,
after all this time, what is
yeah,
it like to get ready for
yeah.
another tour?
So yeah, each tour, the what I need to do or what I like to do for each tour is change up uh, the personnel a little bit. Definitely do a whole new set list. Get a different lighting rig, a different lighting person, a different stage setup. So all these little things, or I guess not really little, all these things kind of add to the excitement and slight apprehension of like, how's it gonna go? I don't know.
Yeah.
Until you get on the stage that first night. I don't know how it's gonna go. So there's I guess, that's the beauty of, if you think about, jazz from back in the day, the cats playing in the clubs, man, it was like if you rehearse too much, that you're going to lose some magic. So
Yeah,
I like to just kind of stay on the edge of our seats a little bit and see what happens.
I dig it.
So, and then each night, there's a lot of fans that go to multiple shows,
Yeah,
and they'll tell me after the show, I was like, man, I saw it last week, and that what happened tonight? That was so cool. That this was so different. And even though the set list ends up being the same over a show like that, because you sort of have to, because things are programmed and the lights and whatnot, but still within each song, there's a lot of different magic that happens, on a live set, which is again the beauty of jazz.
yeah,
You put a pop show together, nothing's changing.
yeah, yeah.
You know,
Sure.
Pro Tools is running half the band.
Yeah, yeah,
let's be real.
yeah, yeah.
So
So,
anyway,
speaking of stage magic, if you could get into a time machine
yeah,
and go back in time
yeah.
and see one jazz
Ooh.
show, where are you going?
Oh man, um, wow, that's a big ask.
A lot of shows.
All these things are flying through my head right now. Wow. I mean, could you imagine seeing like Miles in a New York City club in the 50s?
Oh, yeah,
Huh?
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, I have an idea of what it might be like, but I have no idea, if you
yeah,
know what I mean. I mean,
yeah,
that would just be unbelievable, getting in
yeah,
a time capsule, go and see that, and
for sure.
actually hearing the horn live.
Yeah, I
That'd be
know.
something.
It would be
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
So, at
With
the end of,
Coltrane. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
right, totally. Or the quintet.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
whole thing,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
you know? So at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you. Family,
Yeah.
friends, fans, everyone that plays with you on the bandstand, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do
Yeah.
you think you are?
Hmm. I mean, I'd like to think of myself as trying to be authentic, and that this is a word that I like to use a lot, and I think it's important. I tell young musicians that, don't chase what you think is popular just so that you can get in the mix. You got to do what you feel inside you,
Yeah,
because at the end of the day, you got to be happy with yourself and feel good about, man, yeah, we did something, and I'm really proud of that.
yeah,
So being authentic to the music you create, I think, is really important. Um, and I hope and I think, at least my band guys around me know that and appreciate that, because you see a lot of people in the music business that aren't that, and it's you're like, man, I'm not digging that guy or whatever. And I think there's some of that, again, chasing what they think you have to do.
for sure.
Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So let me ask you this. If anyone wants to pick up a copy of Day Trip, catch you on the tour that
Sure.
kicks off October 17th in Rockford, Illinois,
Yeah,
how can they do it?
yeah. Easiest way is just go to the website, brianculbertson.com. I have physical CDs on there if you want. Otherwise, everyone's just streaming everywhere these days. It's on all the platforms. My tour schedule's on the website as well. So all the links to all the shows. There's 27 shows this fall, but then we're going to add some more next year as well. So
Right on. I love it.
there you
Brian,
go.
thank you, sir. Thank you for your story.
Oh,
Thank you for talking about the album, and have a great tour, man.
appreciate having me on, and until next time.